Hello and welcome to Precon Decon, the video series where we deconstruct the pre-constructed decks of Magic the Gathering's history. In this video we're going to look at the second Planeswalker deck from Throne of Eldraine, which is Rowan, Fearless Sparkmage, and it is a red and white deck. As we've had a green and blue deck, we have to now have a red and white deck because that is apparently how Planeswalker decks were just designed. If you like playing black, tough luck. I don't think these products were for you at all. Let's move on. Let's look at the deck list there for this one. So we've got 27 creatures, 3 instants, 2 artifacts, 2 sorceries, 25 land, and of course a single planeswalker and a mana curve off to the side there. So a bunch of creatures, red, white. I think we know where this is going to go. Fairly, low mana curve as well. So, let's take a look at Rowan, Fearless Sparkmage. So it's 3 and double red for 5 loyalty. This, I think, might actually be a bit of a first in that she is a 5 cost Planeswalker, so one of the cheaper ones of these Planeswalker decks, and comes in with 5 loyalty, which is actually pretty good. Normally you'd expect them to be 4 loyalty for, costing 5. So, yeah, Rowan is a bit actually of an anomaly for having the same loyalty as her casting cost. So, yeah. At the very least, that makes her stand out. Her loyalty ability. So her +1 is to give up to 1 target creature +3/+0 and first strike turn 10, which is a huge buff. Really, anything with that can punch up and become like a real threat. Obviously, it's not instant speed; it's at sorcery. It's at sorcery speed. So it's not perfect as a combat trick, but it does make something really difficult to deal with. +3/+0 and first strike, because that's either going to eat most blockers or, more like your opponent's just kind of going to have to let it through or sacrifice something. Yeah, it's really great. I think it's a really good ability. Her -2 is to do 1 damage to each of up to 2 target creatures, and they can't block this turn. So this is a nice kind of little, I guess, like versatile ability, because you're either killing off, X1s or something, or you're dealing a bit of damage to maybe tougher creatures, but then they can't block. So I think that's a pretty fun ability. And this is a deck where you've got a bunch of creatures going to be attacking a lot, so getting blockers out of the way is pretty good. And then her -9, which will take such a long time to get up to because obviously you've only got a +1. But it's a good -9, I think. It's Insurrection, so you gain control of all creatures to learn 10, untap them, they gain haste and learn 10. So that's like a really big. That's a worthy ultimate. That's like a big. Should win you the game. It's just a shame it takes you a while to get to it. But in the meanwhile, constantly giving stuff +3/+0 and first strike turn 10 is not exactly terrible. Rowan's pretty cool. We like Rowan. Let's move on to our signature spells. So we've got 2 Rowan's Stalwarts. So this is the search spell. This is actually kind of weird as well. So Rowan stood out as being, 5 cost for 5 loyalty, which was kind of a bit weird. So this, I think, is the first case where the search spell is the same mana cost, or the same mana value, whatever, as the Planeswalker it searches up. Because normally they're like 1 or 2 cheaper. The intended style is, you play the search spell, you find up the Planeswalker, and then next turn, ideally, you play a land, and then you play the Planeswalker. So this is the first one where it's the same cost as her, and it just stands out as being a bit weird, honestly. Aside from that, it's just a 5/2, which is actually a little bit disappointing, because we have had creatures before be search spells. Actually, I suppose 5/2 is sort of the okay stat line, because Vivian's the Ethereal Elk thing, that was like 3/3 actually for 5. Huatli's was like a 5/4, I think. So this it's an okay stat line, I suppose, actually. But when it ends the battlefield, you may search your library or graveyard for Rowan, blah 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 blah. But just weird that it costs the same as her, as I've said over and over now. So her Planeswalker buddy is Rowan's Battle Guard, so 3 in red for 3/3 first strike. On its own, not bad, actually. Like 4 mana for 3/3 first strike is actually pretty good, I think. Whether or not it deserves to be uncommon is something else. But as long as you control a Rowan Planeswalker, it gets a +3/+0. So it goes up to being a 6/3 first strike, which is an absolute nightmare to deal with. Like, first strike is so strong, both on the attack and defense. So this is I still don't like Planeswalker buddies. I still think they're usually a bit of a waste of deck space. But this one is like one of the better ones, I think, just because I think it starts off okay anyway, because a lot of them are usually just whatever. So being a 3/3 first strike off the bat is, I think, better than a lot of them have been. and then to get like that's a really significant boost, because most of the others have just been like, oh, if you control the Planeswalker, like you can spend, like like the Think we had in Oko's one was like, oh, you can spend 8 mana to make it a 10/10, which is like obviously not a terrible ability, but it's really expensive, and it's a huge mana sink. Whereas this is just you're just a 6/3 first strike permanently, which is really strong. Really like that actually. And then 4 Garrison Griffin, 2 and a white for a 2/2 with flying. Whenever it attacks, target knight you control gains flying turn. There's a big, obviously, knight theme in here. Like red-white knights was one of the draft archetypes in Throne of Eldraine. So yeah, the deck is full of knights. And again, this is actually okay because at the point in the game where like being a 3 mana 2/2 flyer is like nothing special anyway. It's it's a Windrake, and at the point now where these creatures are starting to get extra abilities as well. And this is a pretty good ability to give your mostly obviously ground-born knights. Some evasion is pretty good. And even if you don't have any knights to give flying, still a 2/2 flyer for like fairly cheap. So yeah. Sort of an okay selection, I think, there of signature cards for once. Like none of them made me really like, ugh. They're actually okay. So the two rares in the deck. So we've got a single acclaimed contender. So 2 and a white for 3/3. You ready for this absolute essay of a rules text? When acclaimed contender enters the battlefield, if you control another knight, so not difficult to do actually. The deck's full of knights. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a knight, an aura, an equipment, or a legendary artifact card from amongst them, and put it into your hand. Put the rest in the bottom of the library in any order. So I suppose you could say, at the very least, it's a 3/3 and lets you dig for 5. Pretty much all those things like are in the deck. You can get those. Like the only thing you don't have in the deck, unfortunately, is a legendary artifact. But like you've got knights. There might be. I don't think there is an aura actually, but you've got some equipment as well. I think. So yeah, at the very least, you can get a knight. You can dig 5 and get a knight, which is okay, I suppose. But yeah. I was going to say I don't think it's really doing much in this deck, but it is. But it doesn't. It's not going to hit like the juicier stuff. It's mostly just going to get like other knights, I suppose. So really, it's just draw a card, which is still okay for obviously 3 mana, and it's still a 3/3. So it's okay. And the other is Giant Killer. So 1 white mana for a human peasant. It's a 1/2, and it's my favorite. It's a master decoy ability. 1 and a white and tapped out creature, but you can also play it for its adventure, Chop Down. This is one of the rare cases where the adventure is more expensive than the creature it's attached to. So the adventure Chop Down is to destroy a creature with power 4 or greater, which normally it's the standard kind of white reprisal effect, which is okay. And then obviously you can cast this then for only one white mana after that. I think it would be best just to cast this as soon as possible rather than save the Chop Down. I think it's better to just get a creature like this down as early as possible so it can start tapping stuff down. But if you've been watching these videos any number of times, I have a absolute unbiased, it's completely biased, absolute biased opinion of Master Decoy effects. Right, move on to all these knights now. So we've got 2 Ardenvale Tacticians, 1 double white for a 2/3 flyer. Has the adventure Dizzying Swoop, 1 and white instant to tap up to 2 target creatures. Yep, I think this is just perfectly good in all ways. I said it before in the last video, but I just like adventures as a mechanic. It just adds a lot of value, I think, to creatures that would otherwise be very, very boring. Like if this was just, if it was just 3 mana 2/3 flyer, like no one would care about it. But the fact it's got like this extra kind of little combat trick attached to it as well, I think it's pretty great. So we like Ardenvale Tactician. Always good to tap creatures to stop attackers or get blockers out of the way. 3 Rimrock Knights, 1 red for 3/1. It can't block. Has an adventure Boulder Rush, which is 1 red to give a creature +2/+0/10. So I bought the Challenger deck Cavalcade Charge, like I think about this time last year, and it had Rimrock Knight in it, and I can safely say from experience playing that deck is this guy is an absolute horror to deal with. Just being able to do that adventure and then next turn come down and start swinging away, and like again you feel like you've gotten so much value out of it just by, and it's it's just a 3/1 for 2 and it can't block, so technically it has a downside, but the fact that it's a pump spell as well, it's just I just really like it, and it goes really well in this deck obviously because you're being super aggressive with small cheap quick creatures. Two Inspiring Veterans, just a red and a white for a 2/2 that gives all your other knights +1/+1. Yep, really nice, cheap Lord effect. Yeah, just very straightforward and really nothing wrong with that at all. We've got two Venerable Knights, one white mana for a 2/1. So yeah, Elite Vanguard stats, which is always good. Elite Vanguard with upside. When it dies, put a +1/+1 counter on target knight you control. And the deck's full of knights, so this is really nice early game play to do this, and then maybe next turn do the Youthful Knight. Swing with Venerable Knight. If it dies, whatever. Now you've got a +1/+1 counter on your Youthful Knight. So yeah. Also, Youthful Knight is great as well. This is actually a really nice reprint. It's really old card actually. I think it goes back to I want to say like Tempest Block. It's been around a really long time, and it's managed to sort of like that stat line's actually stayed sort of okay. One white for a 2/1 first strike. That's actually an okay stat line, even at this time. I think it's okay. A single Weaselback red cap, 1 red mana for a 1/1, and spend 1 red to give it a +2/+0 turn. Yep, that's very straightforward, isn't it? Quite boring, but at least it's cheap. And the pump ability is not limited to once a turn or anything. 2 Knight the Keep, just 2 and a white for a 3/2. Yeah, at least it's another knight though. Just a bit frustrating to get a vanilla creature, just because there were better options. And then 2 Prized Griffin, 4 and a white for a 3/4 flying. At least it's a big evasive creature, but like I really kind of wish it had just been more like knight stuff to get more synergies and stuff. But whatever. And then non-creature spells. So we got 3 Scorching Dragonfires. 1 red does 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker. If that creature or planeswalker die this turn, it gets exiled instead. Yep. This is perfectly fine little burn spell. I always like it when these red spells get the exile effect on them as well, like the disintegrate effect. So yeah, that's okay. Really nice. There's 3 of them as well actually. 2 jousts, 1 red. Choose target creature you control and target creature you don't control. The creature you control gets +2/+1 until end turn if it's a knight. Then the creatures fight each other. So this is really nice. I really like a fight effect with like this extra very flavorful tribal synergy to give your knight so you can definitely win the fight essentially. So yeah, this is good. I like this, and it's just another bit of removal, isn't it? And then 2 weapon racks. 4 mana for an artifact. Enters the battlefield, 3 +1/+1 counters on it, and you can tap it to move a +1/+1 counter from it onto another creature, which is alright. I thought there was equipment in the deck, but I don't think there is, so there's actually even less for that contender to do. Yeah, because we're on to land now. So let me just quickly double check. So what does it get? It gets knights. So the only thing this can actually get is knights in this deck. Yeah, that's really disappointing, actually, isn't it? Yeah, because you've got no wars, you've got no equipments, and got no legendary artifacts. That's really disappointing, honestly. I'm not going to lie. Pretty annoyed. The weapon rack could... Well, we'll see what the weapon rack could be when we get to the what could have been. And then 4 Windscarred Crags, so this is a nice alternative to the Stone Quarry that we've seen so many times in these red-white decks. Enters battlefield tapped. At least it gives you 1 life, and then gives you red or white. And then 11 plains and 10 mountains. So let's talk about what could have been. So, I mean, overall, the deck is fine, I think, as a kind of a red-white aggro deck. It's just, there was so many good, like, red-white Knight Matters cards in Throne of Eldraine. So, like, the deck could have really have had, like, a lot of different options, I think. So we had, like, Ogre Errant here, so 3 and red for 3/4. When it attacks, it gives another attacking knight menace until end turn, which could have been okay. Like, give your knight some more evasion. Burning Yard Trainer. 4 and red for 3/3, trample and haste. When it ends the battlefield, another knight gets +2/+2 and trample and haste until end turn. That's pretty good, I think. Brimstone Trebuchet. 2 and a red for a artifact creature, has Defender and Reach, which is good, and then taps to do 1 damage to each opponent. And when it gets untapped, when a knight ends the battlefield under your control, that could have worked. Fireborn Knight, I think, is the real glaring. Like, this absolutely should have been in the deck because it's white-red hybrid mana. Like, this absolutely should have been here, right? Because okay, so 4 hybrid mana for 2/3 with double strike, which is like pretty solid anyway, and then you can spend 4 Boros hybrid to give it +1/+1 to turn. That ability is obviously really expensive, but it's also got inbuilt double strike, which is really nice. So this of all the cards on this, what could have been, that's the one that stands out to me as what definitely should have been in this deck, I feel. And then I thought, like, have another, like, have this legendary knight, Sir Alan the Lion's Claw, 3 and double white for a 4/4 with first strike. Really solid stats anyway. And when he attacks, or your other creatures get +1/+1 turn. That could have fit in really nicely here, I think. And then Shining Armor, I think instead of the was it the weapon rack? Yeah. So Shining Armor is 1 white. Has flash, always nice when the equipment has flash. When it ends the battlefield, it automatically attaches to a knight. The equipped creature gets +2, +0/+2, has vigilance and equip 3. So yeah, I guess it's again could have been good. You know, it's an equipment for the contender to find. It's a free equip. It's like essentially a combat trick. I don't know, that could have fit in here. But I think out of all of these, the Fireborn Knight, I think, is the one I'm most annoyed about that wasn't included in this deck. I mean, overall, I still think it's okay. It's like white-red aggro. I think it's better than most of the white-red Planeswalker decks we've seen. Not as good as the Gideon one, the Ammon Gideon one. I think that's still like maybe the best red-white one we've looked at so far out of all of these. But I think it was okay. I think I prefer the Oko one like a little bit more to this one. This one's okay. The Oko one, I think I prefer a bit more. But I'd like to know what you think of this deck. You got any thoughts or comments or stories or opinions about the deck or any of the cards in it? Stick a comment below. I'll give those a read. But we are now done with Throne of Eldraine. So in the next video, we're going to move on and look at Theros Beyond Death and the 2 decks from that. So I hope you join me for that. But until then, thanks for watching and listening, and have a great day.